Today I'm going to show you what I do for rat control around my property, the different methods that I use. I'm here in Florida, and so there's been an ongoing problem with rats around the area. So I do two different things. I have bait stations, and this one looks like a rock, so it kind of blends in with landscape. It's a really great option, so you don't have to have the ugly bait stations, those big black things that you see like around commercial properties. So I opted to go with the rock looking ones, and then this is the bait that I use, is this cilantro rodent bait. And so I have probably about 6 of these placed around the property, and about once every quarter or so, every 3 months, 3 to 4 months, I go around and check the stations, and sometimes they need to be cleaned out because it's collected with sand inside. But I washed this one out. Wanted to show you what it's like and how I use the bait to put them in. And one of the ways that I know that these work, or that it actually attracts rats, is I only put like 2 packs in here. And if I notice that the packs are being eaten, that's going to be from a rat. And also, if you look here, this is from a rat chewing on the plastic. That's another thing of a clue that I know actually rats are going in here. And then, so I use this cilantro. You want to use gloves to be able to handle it. And like I said, I only put a couple packs in, and it has like a little hole in the center of it here to be able to puncture through, and they eat right through the plastic, so you don't have to remove the plastic at all. So I basically put one on each post. Sometimes I go ahead and add an extra one, but might not be necessary. Just 3, because you want to check it so often anyways. And over time, if you let it sit for too long, for like 6 months say, these packs will end up starting to rot out, so you'll have to replace them anyways. So there's no sense in adding a whole stack of them and then checking back in a year. No, you want to keep them fresh, that way that the rats continue to come in and munch on them. So the purpose of these posts, to be able to put these rat baits over the post, is so that the rat won't go and remove the bait from the box totally. So it just has to chew on it and take the bait that it can eat at that time. Otherwise, if it was able to you put bait in here and they're able to just pull it out of the box, then you're risking other animals eating it if the rat drops it off at another area. So that's the purpose of these posts. The way this station works is that it has these 2 large holes here, and they go in underneath and enter inside and then go to the bait. So the idea behind it is they take the bait and it ends up killing them off. I don't know the exact process, but it makes them thirsty and go seeking water, and so they basically die of, I guess, of thirst, if I'm not mistaken how these work. But this is what a professional uses. I got the recommendation of this product. There are other products out there that probably work just as well, but there was a reason why he chose this one, that it does attract them, and it's not so much it's more of a humane way, I guess, to kill them or to poison them, if there is such a thing. But so one of the things is that it won't transfer over to predatory animals like birds that will come and eat the carcass after it dies, so it won't transfer to them. So that's one of the big things about this type of bait. Whereas other baits, it gets into the rat system and it contaminates their bodies, and then it can transfer over to either birds of prey or the other birds that come around and clean up roadkill, those types of things. It would transfer over to them and potentially kill them. So this type of bait is not supposed to do that. I get this from, I think it's like DIY pest control website. I'll put a link in the description of where I get it from. But I've had this pack for, gosh, probably 2 years now, and hardly put a dent in the stash that I have. So this is what I do for around the perimeter of the house on the outside. I have had problems in the past where the rats got into my garage, and so I set actual rat traps in my garage, and this is the type of trap that I use. This one's made by, it's called the Trapper by T-Rex. Periodically you want to, if you're using this type of bait or these types of traps, you want to test them to make sure that they work pretty good, which I'm holding it back here so it doesn't just fly out of my hand. So it does work, and I'm getting ready to put bait in here. And so one of the thing that's convenient about these is that the bait part comes out. I just take a pair of pliers, and that way I can take out the little bait station here, and I just put in some peanut butter. I have a special jar that I labeled rat on it. So again, using gloves, you don't really want to handle the top part unless you disinfected it. And when you're putting the bait or the peanut butter in here, you want to keep it flush. The flush with this, you don't want it to be protruding out, because the rat could potentially just eat it without having to step on the lever that activates the trap. So keep it even with that. Put it back in here underneath, and it just twists in place. Set it up like that so it's ready to go. And you notice this is what activates the trap. So if they step on this, they press down on that, it closes. So once it's closed, see if you notice how the bait portion is below this ring. So they have to put their nose down in here, and they're more inclined to step on it then. And then that's what activates it. So one thing I recommend with these traps is you get some string and tie around. There's a hole back here, like in the corner. Take some string and tie it to a string, and then put a nail in the wall, or even tie it to a paver or a brick or something, or a piece of wood, to kind of help hold it in place. Because what can happen is, if it catches a rat and the rat is still trying to run around, it could potentially go far away from where you set this trap at. Then you're basically having to search for where the trap is at. So I recommend tying a string to it. I'll show you when I go inside and set it, and that way it stays in place when they go to try to run off. But this is pretty cool. I like this setup with the bait station. It uses a special key to lock it in place. And the thing that's unique about these bait stations is that it has a paver that weighs it down. So a paver that's specially made for this. It's maybe 5 pounds or so, and that way it'll stay in place. It won't blow around from high wind or anything like that, because the plastic is pretty light and it'll blow around if it wasn't weighted down. So it's pretty cool. Obviously it attracts the rats, and what I do is I place it along the walls, and you want to have the holes here, the entry holes, along the wall. So you have the wall like this, that way, because usually the rats want to go along like a surface, along a wall, especially at night when they can hardly see anything. Then they are more likely to be forced to go inside. It's just easier access for them then. You don't want to place it out in the middle of the yard. I mean, you can, but try to place it along a wall or some place where or a fence even, where they're going to be running along a surface, and then likely run into this, and then go inside and take the bait. And I'll show you next where I place the trap. All right, so this is the bait station here. I just placed it along the wall here, and the entry holes are right up by the wall. So if they're running along, they're more inclined to go inside and then find the bait and then take it out and hopefully be done with. So I have a couple more bait stations here I've washed out. They're pretty dirty inside. I don't know what happens, just like sand blows inside, or I noticed too, being in Florida, I mean, the we have a lot of geckos and lizards, and they like to go inside and use that as a home to hang out in, but they don't take the bait, so they just kind of hang out there. So I don't know if they're just bringing in more debris with them going in and out, but anyways, they're easy to wash out. You just open it up, you can remove the paver and clean it all out, just wash it with a hose and then let it dry off and then put the bait in once it's all dry, which I'll get those set up and then placed again around the walls. Just showing you here what I do with the trap. I have it nailed to a stud here and then tied to a string here, tied off in the corner, and then you want to place it usually along a wall or in a corner to where it's easier for them to find, and then have to maneuver around in order to get the bait, then for it to go off and catch them. And then here's 2 more bait stations I'm preparing. So, I mean, it's important to keep up with this. That way, just kind of help. Well, I just put 4 in there. That's all right. It's important to keep the rat population down before they get really bad, especially here in Florida, where they don't have to deal with winters. And I'll tell you a couple stories of, well, one of them is around my neighbor's house, they got into their new Toyota 4Runner into the engine there and chewed up a bunch of wires and had thousands of dollars of damage to it. And another neighbor down the street had a brand new Jeep Wrangler that they had parked out front, and same thing, got into their engine compartment and started chewing up the engine wires, and the plastics in there did $5,000 of damage, and they had to be exterminated. So I feel I'm doing my part around my property with these bait stations to kind of help control them around my area, but they're everywhere. I believe it's important to do this around all properties, and then if you're having a problem inside, do the actual traps and not the bait stations, because if you do it inside, then they're going to be running around dying off somewhere inside your house. So that's why it's important to keep this outside and let them die outside then. And the other thing is too, is with them causing all these problems with these new vehicles are the wire coating and the plastics are made of a corn and soy based material, so it's basically an attractant to them. So they're more geared to chew up those wires and products in these new vehicles. It's nice that these have the locks that they do, so that way kids, if you have any kids around, they can't get into them because it takes that special key. And I just keep the key inside of a Ziploc bag here, and I put it in with the bait inside the container here. That way I keep it all together. So that's what the process I do to help eliminate rats around my property. If you found value in this video, if it helped you at all, please give me a thumbs up and consider subscribing for more DIY tips, tricks, and reviews, as well as deals on tools and home improvement items. Thanks for watching. Oh, and also let me know what it is that you do around your property, if you have other tips that would be recommended, and be sure to comment below what you do.